royal family have had a full-packed year, despite the challenges faced in particular by the King and the Princess of Wales, both receiving treatment for cancer.
Last night, the Princess of Wales hosted a sparkling carol concert, bringing stars of music and dance together for a fabulous festive celebration.
And those invited to Westminster Abbey were people who have overcome their own challenges and volunteers who've gone above and beyond to help others in their communities throughout the year.
Well, we're joined by the broadcaster and royal historian Wesley Kerr. A very happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas to you.
You brought a sort of royal Christmas to the Good Morning Britain studio. What is distinctive, of course, apart from the King's message at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Christmas Day? It's a highlight for so many people. But what is a royal Christmas like?
Well, I think it's great celebration. Apparently 45 people roughly to lunch, although I think the dining table at Sandringham can only seat about 24, so maybe some will be in the corner. So that's quite... There'll have been presents last night. It's the old German tradition of opening the presents on Christmas Eve before watching the carol service, which I think you were at. And then, of course, church is very, very important. So the church of St Mary Magdalene, which is very close to the Sandringham house, and I think later this morning we'll see them, you know, the whole royal family, and it's always who's in and who's out, going to church. And I think we'll also see the King shaking hands, because also we know about the tumultuous year he's had, and it's worth remembering that at Easter Day was the first time at Windsor this year that he met people after his diagnosis. So on this second great Christian festival, I think there'll be a celebratory atmosphere, there'll be crowds of people, and we'll see the King, the Queen, the Princess Royal, who had her health challenges from the incident with a horse where she was in hospital with a head injury, the Queen, pneumonia later in the year, and of course, you know, the very serious diagnosis of cancer for the King, which was the last time I was in the studio, the morning after. And I expressed a hope that day that he would be back doing duties a couple of months later, but that wasn't the scenario that everybody thought. And then, of course, Kate will never forget that broadcast March 22nd, when we heard that cancer had been found, and that was a very doleful day. So looking back on the year, there's been enormous adversity, but they've triumphed over it, and I think it's an odd thing to say. I think they're more relatable because of it. Yeah.
Can I ask you, Wesley, because, I mean, for the royal family, at all times, they're on public display. That's a tougher thing when you face, as you said, the tumult of having cancer diagnoses for the King and for the Princess of Wales. But I think there is something about the monarchy this year and those two individuals, the King and the Princess of Wales, they've managed to not only publicly talk about their cancers, but in a way which I think has been very comforting and important for very, very many people around the country. It's a great public service that they've done, even in these difficult times.
They've managed to keep a little bit of privacy, so we don't know the precise cancer diagnosis, but for others in the public limelight, like Kate, I think there's been a relatability. We've all know people in our own families who've been ill or had cancer or been severely ill, and I think they've kind of said, well, we are like you, we may be rich, we may live in castles, but William said recently that this had been the hardest year of his life. And when you think there's been some quite difficult years in his life, like when his mother died so suddenly, to have your dad and your beloved wife really, really ill, it could have been brushes with death, we don't know how serious, but to have to carry on as he's done and almost step up as Deputy Head of State. I think Camilla, her beloved husband, and she then, there was a time in January, February, March, when William wasn't really doing public duties, and Camilla had to... she did the Maundy money service alone, the Maundy service, which never happened. Philip never did that. There was a day that she was meant to be doing an engagement at Salisbury Cathedral, and the weather was so bad, no helicopter, so she drove or was driven. But that must have been tough. Of course. I think there's been great solace in things like gardening and sort of family togetherness. So we saw that in the wonderful video that Kate and William released in September. We saw a bit of redemption And I think that concert that you went to, which was recorded in early December and shown last night and this morning, I think we saw that she's come through and triumphed over adversity.
Shining.
Which is wonderful. And of course, so many people will be watching us right now, perhaps dealing with a diagnosis of someone they love. What do you make of how the Queen has come across and the Prince of Wales in their sort of supporting roles of supporting Charles and Catherine?
Yeah, when you think of all the nasty rumours that were spread and the fuss about the supposedly altered picture, I think that William has been incredibly stoic.
Yeah.
And protecting those children. So it was interesting that the day that Kate released the video saying that she was ill, well, that the children were on holiday. So that must be quite difficult. But luckily, all 3 children are at the same school, but to protect them is difficult. I think for Camilla, I mean, it's a big job being Queen, but she's carried on with her campaigning, her literacy work, her domestic violence work, the focus on women who have been abused, the wonderful documentary she made. William with his work on homelessness, the documentary he made. So they've had to carry on with these duties. And I think people don't realise how much preparation. And then you have to be present and warm for people. And they've continued to engage, and they've done foreign tours.
They have.
And obviously been a huge support
They really have.
to their partners,
I think for
haven't
very many people, it's been a very, very important
Yeah.
year.
Wesley, thank you so much
Thank you.
for joining us. And the King's Message, of course, at 3 o'clock this afternoon.
I can't wait.
Yeah,
Thank
we'll
you.
see which of those themes he picks up on. Thanks so much.